Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we are going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story. I think this week, though, for the biggest story, we probably have to have a bit of a truce on it, because the biggest story clearly is the election. We've had 6 weeks of campaigning, 3 debates, 2 would-be prime ministers, nearly 4 million early votes. The numbers surrounding the whole election are huge, and after 6 weeks, we are finally at the end of it. It was the biggest story. So let's pick out a couple of others. For me, the next biggest story this week was all about jobs. On Thursday, we heard that unemployment in April dropped to 3.9%. That's the lowest in 48 years. The last time unemployment was this low, ABBA won Eurovision with Waterloo. The numbers were unequivocally good. They were a fantastic set of labour force figures. So for me, that was the biggest story of the week, apart from the election, of course.
Of course, I'm going with markets. The swings on Wall Street this week were massive. Target, the retailer on Wall Street, lost 25% of value on one day. Apple, in 2 days, lost $150 billion in value. That's the size of Commonwealth Bank, or not far off it. Locally, the big retailers were hammered. Wesfarmers, Woolworths, JB Hi-Fi, all sold off. The reason is fears of inflation along with slowing growth. That's called stagflation. Very big week on the markets.
Yeah, certainly was. Moving on to the most remarkable story, Sean, and you mentioned retail and some of the big hits to markets overseas. It's hard to go past the family that lost $34 billion in just 2 days. This was, of course, the Walton family, which are the children of Sam Walton, who started Walmart. It's a low-cost retailer, doesn't want to push up prices, so higher costs on everything from products to shipping is hitting profit margins. 11% fall in Walmart's share price on Tuesday, 7% the next day. The family lost $34 billion in just 2 days. They'll be all right, though. They've still got $212 billion. So I think they're travelling okay.
Yeah, look, my most remarkable story is the fact that Australia this week got a new top 10 company, and it's an oil and gas company. So the merger of Woodside Petroleum and BHP Petroleum got the go-ahead from shareholders. It'll be a $63 billion company. It'll be known as Woodside Energy. Makes it sound better, I suppose. It'll only be behind BHP, CSL, the big four banks, and Macquarie on the ASX. Credible, really, in 2022 for Australia to get a new oil and gas company of that size. Remarkable.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, the sleeper story, the one that's kind of flying under the radar or going to be a bigger story down the track. For me, it was all about the cost of living. The cost of living attention has really been on interest rates and petrol prices, but the focus is about to shift to electricity. There's been a whole stack of factors that have caused wholesale electricity prices to soar. For some households, that means power bills are going to double. Smaller power retailers, some of them like Queensland's LPE, are actually writing to customers telling them to find another supplier, one of the bigger players who can perhaps absorb some of these price increases. There's now calls for the government to help subsidise and stabilise energy costs. But really, this affects so many people, so many families and businesses, that the fact that electricity prices are soaring and it's going to get worse in coming months, that's a sleeper story for me.
Look, mine was the Australian Tax Office releasing its annual hit list of people and companies and activities it'll be keeping a close watch on this year. Would have got a lot more attention except for the election and markets. Property investors and cryptocurrency traders are under the spotlight. So many Australians fit into one of those categories. So many of them will be caught up in the ATO crackdown. If the tax office sticks to its word, it will be knocking on the door of hundreds of thousands of people in the next few months. That's why it's a sleeper story.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, favourite story of the week. I've just got a quick one for this one, Sean. It's the return of the travel industry, because early in the week we talked about the fact that airfares are rising again. Obviously, that's partly driven by demand. Airlines don't have to slash prices anymore to try to lure people back on board. The other news we had this week is that Webjet returned to profit for the second half of this financial year, April being the most profitable month since the pandemic began. The travel sector's copped an absolute hammering for 2 years. Now, it seems it's coming back.
My favourite story was the collaboration between Adidas and Gucci in China, and the fact that it's under fire because the $2,000 umbrella the two companies launched doesn't actually stop the rain. The collaboration umbrella, which sells for 11,100 yuan, isn't waterproof. What I loved most was the rationalisation. Adidas and Gucci agreed it wasn't waterproof, but said it was never meant to be. Instead, it should be used as a shade from the sun or for fashion purposes. The ultimate example of the king with no clothes.
Yep, seems like a pretty good place to leave it. A $2,000 umbrella. 5 minutes, pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.